Alrighty. What's up, guys? It's Jesse here from Mad Naps, and today we're going to be talking about the UFC Michelle Waterson versus Rodriguez fight, and the reason I think that they should start adding more weight classes to the UFC. So, the big thing first off is that for those of you who don't know, prior to the 115 class being added to the UFC, Michelle Waterson was actually the 105-pound world champion. She defended that once before losing to Horacia Tiburcio. I'm not 100% sure how you pronounce that. My Portuguese is not the best, but she was the 105-pound champion in Invicta, which was basically the world championship. It's a smaller organization that the UFC also owns. And they air on Fight Pass, and a lot of the women, before they add the fights to the UFC, that's where the top fighters in those divisions are. So Waterson actually was a former 105-pound world champion, and you can see this in her 115-pound fights. She's always really, really good, but often the problem is she's undersized. In her fight with Rodriguez tonight, or I guess last night now, we saw the same thing, right? The one good round that she had, or I guess she had two good rounds, or a good round and a half. The fourth and then the first half of the fifth was because she got that takedown. She was able to, for a large part of it, change the size difference. And then also being the better grappler with the other girl coming from a pure Muay Thai background, she was able to control it on the ground, but she had problems getting her there. The one takedown she did get, I think it was a body lock, and then she tried for some more double legs, but she never went back to that body lock. She got some good kicks. She got her a good kick to the chin, a good liver shot. She had some really good shots on her, but all in all, the big problem was that Waterson was just undersized. And I think this brings into question the question about more UFC weight classes. Now, there's two big things. One is that if they do add the 105-pound division, it'll obviously thin out the 115-pound division a little bit, because you'll have a lot of those smaller girls. Jessica Penne used to be a world champion at 105 pounds. Michelle Waterson, obviously, former world champion at 105 pounds. A lot of the top girls in the division are former 105-pounders. So some of them will move away from that division, and that might not be the best thing in terms of getting fights for those contenders. But then again, a lot of these girls can jump back and forth between divisions. They don't have to really worry about that. We've seen that with the 135 and 145 pounders with Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandamine, obviously the champion Amanda Nunes. A lot of the top girls are in both divisions, are the same girls. So we could see something like that in 105 and 115 pounds. But I think the big thing, it'll give those smaller girls, like the girls like Michelle Waterson, a weight class where they can actually compete with people their own size. This kind of reminds me of like when Demetrius Johnson fought Dominic Cruz when he was fighting at 135 pounds. He obviously won most of his fights. He only lost to Pickett and Cruz, and then his most recent match over in ONE FC. But he was clearly always the smaller guy. But then once they added the 125-pound division, we got to see the greatness that is Demetrius Johnson. And I would really like to see them add a 105-pound division, not just for Waterson, but for a lot of these other girls. And obviously, they also have to start filling up their 145-pound division. They've got most of the top girls. They let Santos go because she was kind of being problematic, I guess is the best way to put it, right? Like, she was releasing false information on the UFC, doctored videos, and not exactly being like, she was basically undermining the very company she worked for while trying to get more money, right? And it's easy to see why the UFC wanted to get rid of her. So unfortunately, even though she is one of the top girls in the world, she kind of burnt the bridge before she was even gone, and then they just booted her anyway. But they do have Megan Anderson. I think they have Felicia Spencer in the UFC now. I'm going to double check that. She might be. Yeah, she's in the UFC. She just lost to Nunes. I wasn't sure if she left after that or if she got signed to Bellator, because I know a couple of these girls have left for Bellator to try and get that belt. They had Pam Sorensen. They still technically have her. She is under Zuffa contract. She's under so on August 29th. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, maybe we'll see her come in, but they definitely need to fill out that 145-pound division. But then I would like to see them at 155-pound division, because you are starting to see these bigger girls like Kayla Harrison, Clarissa Shields, who compete at what is essentially lightweight. And I think the big thing is if you want these bigger girls to start coming, like a lot of those girls that would end up in like the WNBA and stuff, you need to start making divisions for them. And then they'll see it as a viable opportunity. So obviously right now 45, they need to fill that out first. But I would like to see them out of 105, fill out 45, and then start building up 55. And then we'll see where they can go from there. And then on the men's side, I honestly think there's some changes that they should make too, which is one, add 115 and 105-pound males. 115 would be like is already a pretty deep talent pool. A lot of the top guys in Thailand, Japan, Indonesia, a lot of these Asian countries where the average size is much, much smaller, like 30 to 40 pounds smaller. In the West, we tend to think of the most deep divisions as 55 and 70 because that's pretty much close to the average size guy. But in Asia, where the average size dude is 20 to 30 pounds smaller, the 125, 135 pounds are the most stacked. And there actually is quite a bit of talent in 15 and 105. Almost the current top ranked guy is an American, a white dude, Jared Brooks. But with the exception of him, the next like 16 top ranked 115 pounders are all Asian. They're either Japanese, Thai, or I think one of them was a Filipino and one of them is Indonesian. But a lot of those top guys are from Asia, and with the UFC looking to get that Asian superstar, they want that the big star in the East. They definitely need to start building that division. And if they want their Manny Pacquiao, like a lot of people think these are small divisions, but look at how big of a star Manny Pacquiao was. And Manny Pacquiao started at 112 pounds in boxing. I don't want them to ever do the thing that boxing does, where they have a weight class every 3 pounds. Or even some of the smaller weight classes, I think some of them are 2-pound differences in weight, which I think is just ridiculous. And that takes that's why boxing, to a large degree, has a hard time. The world championship isn't seen as impressive in boxing because there's one every 2 pounds, and there's so many different organizations that, the people care about the lineal titles more in boxing than they do about the divisional titles in a way. And I think a big thing for that is the 2 pounds every division, which can be a problem, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. But I really would like them to see it at 115, 105-pound divisions for the men's side as well. Definitely the 115. They might have to wait a little bit and build the division up for 105 pounds first. And then, honestly, another one I'd like to see is if they move 70 pounds up to 75, right? Because technically every welterweight fight prior would still count because it was under 175 pounds. They were all at 170. You move welterweight up 5 pounds and you add that 165-pound weight class. I think that would be really good. 195 is also another option that they could do. They could add that kind of skip weight. I don't know if they should do that right now, because you don't want to be adding too many weight classes all at the same time. Honestly, if it were me, I'd move this year. Right? Basically, they used to do this, actually. They used to add like one weight class a year. I remember when I first started watching back in like 2011, 2012, they added the 2 WEC weight classes, which were 45 and 55. Then they brought in the 25ers. Then they brought in the women's 135 pounds. Then they brought in the women's 115 pounds, then 125, and then 145. And then for the past couple of years, they haven't added any new divisions. And I really would like to see that. I'd like to see them add the 100. If I had to choose which one they should do next, honestly, I would choose for men, move 70 to 75 and add the 65. But that might be difficult until a 70 champion retires, because then depending if the guy wants it, it looks like you're doing it just for him, and if the guy doesn't want it, it looks like you're doing it just to fuck him over. So I think they have to wait till retirement for that to happen, or somebody just vacating the title for whatever reason, maybe getting stripped from steroids or something. But something has to happen where the title's vacant, then they can move the weight up and then add that 65-pound division. And then on the female side, I think the 105-pound is definitely the next move to make. And then on top of that, 195 would be a good weight class, but I don't know if they should do that right away, just because if they would add the 65 pounds, then they'd probably want to wait a little bit. And then honestly, I'd like to see one super heavyweight needs to get added. I still can't believe they don't have that, right? Like the fact that there's not that many top guys in the world that's super heavyweight, and most of them can make heavyweight, so most of them just make heavyweight. But like, I would love to see like Francis Ngannou versus fucking, because Francis cuts to 265, right? So like a Francis Ngannou versus Brock Lesnar for the super heavyweight title at 300 pounds or something, that'd be fucking great. But heavyweight getting cut in half would be interesting as well if they did a 235-pound cruiserweight, possibly. I don't know how much. The big thing is, though, like, the talent pool. Heavyweight's interesting because if they do cut it in half like that, and especially if they cut it in half and they add that super heavyweight, a lot of the bigger guys will go to super heavyweight and maybe also fight at heavyweight. Then, the smaller guys, honestly, it would be really good for a guy like Miocic. Like a lot of those guys that are kind of tweeners, like they're too big for light heavyweight, but they're not full size heavyweights, right? Because that's the thing, heavyweight's 60 fucking pounds, right? So I would definitely like to see them split that in half and then add a super heavyweight. I think that'd be great. But all in all, I think the big thing is they need to add more divisions, but definitely not to the extreme that boxing did, where it's every 3 pounds, right? Do every 10, move 70 up to 75, and then just do every 10. And when you get to the heavyweights, just split them in half at first, and then as you get more and more talent, then you can chop them up even more, right? So like off the bat, like maybe the first weight class you make is a 235 cruiserweight, and then 5-10 years down the road you make a 215, and then maybe a 225, and then you've got like those 10 pounds all the way up. But I think the big thing is, one, they just need to keep getting more and more talent, which they're doing a good job as the sport becomes more and more international, as the sport becomes more and more popular. These divisions are just getting filled up with killers. I would honestly say heavyweight's probably ready to be split now, just because if you look at heavyweight, it has so many former champions that if they re-signed a lot of those guys that they fired, like Frank Mir, I think Barnett's gone, a lot of those top guys, if they re-signed a lot of those guys that they'd fired, then they could really give some legitimacy to it with all these former champions. Because if you look at like how many people have held the 265 pound title, the heavyweight title, right? Like still fighting, not even retired. You've got Josh Barnett. I think Rico Rodriguez is still fighting. He hasn't fought in 2 years. I'm not sure if he's retired or not. I don't think so. Yeah. So Rico's still fighting. What does Rico weigh? I think he fights as super heavy now, though, doesn't he? No, he's down to 225. Okay, I know he was big for a while, but so yeah, like Rico would be a good 235 or 225er. You've got Josh Barnett, who'd be a real heavyweight because I think he weighs around 265. Rico Rodriguez would be a cruiserweight. Frank Mir would be a heavyweight. Andrei Arlovsky could probably make cruiserweight. Who else is here? Brock Lesnar could make heavyweight or super heavyweight. Frank Mir, I've already said. Shane Carwin wanted to make a comeback not that long ago. I don't know if he still wants to, but again, that's another good heavyweight. JDS, unfortunately, just got cut, but another guy that's 240, he could definitely make that 235 weight cut. Verdum, another guy, walks around 240, can make that 235 weight cut. So I think a lot of these guys, if they added the 235 pound division, a lot of these top guys at heavyweight would basically have a division for themselves, because realistically a lot of them are undersized at this weight class. And if we keep getting guys like Ngannou who are true heavyweights where they have to cut to make 265, then these guys like Stipe and Verdum and JDS, where they're 240, 250 pounds, they're going to have a hard time ever winning the title, just because they're too big to ever cut to 205 pounds, but they're too small to ever compete with a guy like Stipe, right? Like, imagine if the only weight class that Dominic Cruz could compete in was 185 pounds, right? Like, it's kind of insane that these are how big the heavyweight gap is. And honestly, like, obviously you need at some point, like, there's just, you got to have a limit, right? Like, except super heavyweight, because it just goes on forever. But yeah, just the giant, like, the size of the gap is what's crazy to me, especially because, like, there's a lot of people over that size. Like, maybe it's because a lot of these weight classes are made from like 100 years ago, where people, were like 4 inches average on shorter, not much healthier, like everyone was malnourished. So there were like a lot smaller guys back then, but it just seems weird to me that that heavyweight's not split up more like the smaller weight classes are, at least in the 10-pound range. Again, I never want to see UFC or MMA at the point where it's like boxing, where in boxing you've got, like, I'm going to check this out. I'm pretty sure in some of these weight classes, the bottom, it's literally 2 pounds. List of boxing world champions. Let's check this out. So yeah, heavyweight in boxing is 200 pounds plus, and then cruiserweight is 200. That's another thing. It's like the boxing weight classes are like so weird. Like, yeah, it's like 25. Cruiserweight's a light. Heavyweight is 20. Like, light heavyweight's 175 pounds, and then cruiserweight's 2. Like, the jumps are so weird. And then, yeah, 7-pound difference from super middleweight, 8-pound difference from middleweight, 6-pound difference to super. 7, yeah, so there's a 6-pound difference. 5 pounds at light from, yeah, so you get to these smaller weight classes, it's like 5 pounds, 4 pounds, fucking 3 pounds, yeah, 3 pounds from fucking super flyweight to bantamweight, 3 pounds from flyweight to super flyweight, 4 pounds from light flyweight to flyweight. Like, yeah, definitely, I definitely don't want to see them ever do that in MMA. I think they would completely, like, it's just complete overkill, right? It's kind of ridiculous. Like, why is there 105, 108? Like, yeah. That's what I'm saying. 105, 108, 112, 115. So there's 4 champions in, like, 10 pounds. 118, 122, 126. Featherweight's 126 in boxing. That's so weird. Like, this is the thing that, like, I love watching boxing, but I just can't stand these fucking weight classes every 2 pounds. It's like, and then on top of that, you got like 5 major organizations. No one fights each other. Like, and this is exactly what I don't want to happen in the UFC, right? Because, like, right now, the good thing about the UFC is because there are, especially with the heavyweights, honestly, like the heavyweights especially, if they divided all those weight classes up, a lot of those top talent would never fight each other, right? Or rarely fight each other, only in super fights. But when they're all at heavyweight, they obviously have to fight each other all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I don't understand this 2-pound bullshit. Like, I think it should just be every 10 pounds. I don't even know why. I think it was the commission that made the weight classes, not the UFC, originally. But, like, the welterweight for me should have always been 175 pounds. That's what they should have done. I think that, yeah, they should move welterweight up to 175 and then add a junior welterweight or whatever they want to call it at 165. But anyway, let me know what you think. Should they add these divisions? Discussed a couple different ones here. 105 women, possibly 155 women as that division starts to fill out with, like, girls like Clarissa Shields and Kayla Harrison. And then for the men, 105, 115 pounds, start getting those Asian superstars. And then, move 75 up, add a 65, or move 70 up to 75, add a 65. Maybe add a 95 at some point in the future, and then chop heavyweight in half and add super heavyweight. You with some of these, you with all of them, none of them? Let me know below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you there.